And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim Heberlein. I'm the founder and president of TS Edgewater Consultants, a market development consultancy specializing in biogas from organic waste and smart cities. I also serve as the chief representative for Asia for Boston-based Purpose Energy and anaerobic digestion technology company. I'd like to thank the organizers for the invitation and the arrangements for today's program. I'm honored by the opportunity to be a speaker today, and I look forward to learning new things and making new friends. 大家早，必姓何，叫何先。新字就3个尖叠在一起。我小人家就是天顺顾问公司的创办人，这就等于说我在公司的角色讲话比较多，甚至于包括洗盘扫地的。天顺的市场定位就在早期发电与智慧城市的领域上。我很荣幸参加今天的论坛，并且也要特别感谢经济部水利署和协办单位给我今天这么一次机会。期待今天多学新的一套，以及交新的一批朋友。Today, I'd like to talk about the challenge of opportunity with wastewater treatment in the new Asia. But to understand the opportunity of the new Asia, it's very useful for us to remember the old Asia. Sorry. I first came to Asia in 1973. Spent a year in Thailand as a high school exchange student. In those days, the best way to get around Bangkok was on a boat on its many canals. Today, the canals are gone and the boats are for tourists. I then came to Taiwan in 1976 as a college student to study Chinese. East Taipei ended at Dinghao. 忠孝东路3段，新一区 maybe some vegetables， 皇帝没人要了 ，it was really cheap. Today, who can afford to buy a condo there? Since then, I've lived in Hong Kong, Singapore, Beijing, Seoul, and now I'm back in Taipei again for the last 7 years. Now, over this last 47 years that I've been in Asia, a lot of things have changed. For me, the most important story of that change isn't about universal education. It's not about participatory democracy. It's not about the change in opportunity for women. It's not about the increase in economic growth, per capita income, and property prices. It's not about the change from the old packed buses we used to ride to go to school at Shida to clean, modern, fast subways and bullet trains. It's not about the internet. It's not even about the transition from home cooking to Food Panda. The real story for me is our shift from living in an empty world to living in a full world. In the old empty world of Asia, there was lots of empty land, much less concrete, far fewer people. Population growth, economic growth, mankind's technological leverage had not yet overwhelmed the ability of our natural environment to absorb all our waste. So in the old Asia, we could afford to just throw our garbage into landfills and open-air dumps. We could afford to pour untreated municipal wastewater, factory wastewater, farm wastewater into our rivers and groundwaters. We could afford to burn coal, blacken the sky. No need to worry about the impact of greenhouse gases on our climate or worry about the impact on the survival of the human species. But the empty world days of use it once, throw it away, burn it, bury it are over. In our full world, we need to reduce and repurpose waste or suffer the consequences. The greatest challenge lies not with inventing some new green technologies. It's not hydrogen power cells. That's not the problem. There's plenty of brain power around the world to do all that good stuff. What needs to happen, and what is the greatest challenge, lies in changing the way we think about waste. The single greatest business opportunity is how we process and monetize waste. Now, Taiwan, of course, has done a great job of addressing the challenge of reducing, recycling, and reusing post-consumer inorganic waste. Paper, plastic, glass, metal, it's set an example for the rest of Asia, and for that matter, the rest of the world to follow. However, as these popsicles made from water taken from various waterways in Taiwan show, water pollution remains a stubborn problem here in Taiwan. Obviously, same for Southeast Asia. A series of hot summer days still results in large fish kills on the Danshui River, Jilong River, Xindian River. But at least Taipei's rivers today are no longer open sewers. Cities in northern Taiwan have done a great job of segregating their waste, including food waste. But today, still 68% of all of the kitchen waste that's collected from homes in Taiwan by the EPA is still incinerated. But that's better than the rest of Asia, where basically we dump it in landfills or just leave it in the open air to rot. When it comes to the issues of water consumption, wastewater reclamation, Taiwan still quite a ways to go yet. We're pretty much in the same boat as the rest of Asia. Maybe the exception being Singapore, who's done a great job with water reclamation. Now, I'm no expert on water reclamation. I'm no expert on reducing water consumption. But I know a thing or two about organic waste repurposing and wastewater treatment. Since this wastewater business forum's about wastewater business opportunities, I'd like to focus my comments today to a compelling but largely unnoticed business opportunity with the byproduct of wastewater treatment: sludge. More specifically, the organic sludge that comes from food and beverage factory wastewater. Many food and beverage factories have their own aerobic wastewater treatment systems, where enough chemical oxygen demand, biological oxygen demand, and suspended solids in their wastewater is removed to meet the EPA's wastewater emissions standards. Aerobic wastewater treatment is a very energy-intensive process. It's an expensive process. But by using aerators like these to drive oxygen into the wastewater, it succeeds in getting the chemical oxygen demand, the biological oxygen demand in that wastewater down to 100 milligrams per liter and 50 milligrams per liter respectively, which is good enough for the EPA, so it's good enough for the factory owner. But after going through that treatment process, all these factories are left with the same problem, namely, what to do with the hundreds of tons of wet sludge that's left over in the clarifier box at the end of their aerobic treatment process. Hundreds of tons every day. Now, that sludge is 98 to 99% water. Kind of looks like a chocolate milkshake, though I don't recommend that you drink it. Now, the factory can't dump it, so they use typically belt filter press equipment to remove most of the water. And they're left with dry sludge, or more accurately, dewatered sludge. That's got roughly a 78 to 80% moisture content. Think of like potting soil in a plant pot. But here's the real rub. The factory cannot legally get rid of that wet sludge, okay? They've got to pay money to one of 9 sludge treatment plants in Taiwan to dry it further out and then burn it. And today the cost of getting rid of that dewatered sludge is high, and it's only going to get higher going forward. As a result, some food factories have resorted to illegally dumping their dry sludge on remote farmland in central and south Taiwan as a way to cut their disposal cost. Now, one could argue that dewatered organic sludge is good compost, improves the quality of the soil where it's been dumped. But because an inorganic flocculant was used in the dewatering process to pull the solids together, it's illegal to dump that dewatered sludge and land apply it direct in Taiwan. Plus, that sludge still gives off methane as it breaks down. That's why it smells so bad. Oxygen is interacting with organic material, S2O4 is created, and it stinks like garbage. The problem for us is that that methane is the most harmful of greenhouse gases. It is 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide in trapping heat and making our planet hotter. Now, according to the EPA, the average food factory in Taiwan produces 15 metric tons of dewatered sludge a day. And in North Taiwan, it costs them 6,500 to 7,000 NT dollars a ton to dispose of that. Now, if we assume an offload rate of 250 days a year, we're talking somewhere 25 to 27 million NT dollars a year just goes to getting rid of your dewatered sludge. And if one or more of the 9 sludge treatment plants in Taiwan are closed down by the EPA for operational irregularities, then that 6,500 a ton skyrockets to 12,000, 14,000 NT dollars a ton, and you can imagine what that does to a factory's bottom line. But where there's a problem, there's always an opportunity. That 15 tons of dewatered sludge a day started out as about 180 to 200 tons of wet sludge in the clarifier box. With the right anaerobic digestion treatment and technology, that wet sludge can generate a lot of electricity. And after the anaerobic bacteria eat the sludge, there's much less sludge left at the end to dispose of. So to that point, let's look at a specific real-life example. A company here in Taiwan that my firm researched to illustrate the commercial benefit that's available to a food and beverage factory from their wet organic sludge. The factory we researched produced a wide range of Chinese and Western fruits. Fresh, frozen, sweet, sour, salty, bitter, they make it all. Now, they generate an average of 4,000 cubic meters of wastewater a day. That's what goes through their wastewater treatment system. That's almost 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools of water. That's a lot of water. It's a pretty decent-sized factory. The chemical oxygen demand in that water is 3,000 milligrams per liter. Not much to write home about. By the time that it exits the aerobic wastewater treatment plant, it leaves behind 200 to 250 metric tons a day of wet sludge with a chemical oxygen demand of 42,000 milligrams per liter. Now that's very interesting feedstock for anaerobic digestion. There's something you can do with that. Now, after dewatering, they're left with an average of 15 tons a day of dewatered sludge. Got a moisture content of about 85%. And at 6,500 a metric ton, That's what they were paying when we did this research. Today they're paying $7,000 already. It costs them 29.7 million NT dollars a year to get rid of that sludge. Now, if we were to take that 200 tons of wet sludge and run it through an advanced anaerobic digestion system, we would generate enough biogas to produce 445 kilowatts an hour of electricity. To give you some context, the average Taiwan household uses 404 kilowatt hours of electricity a month in the summer when their air conditioners are going full blast. In an average non-summer month in Taiwan, a Taiwan household consumes 240 kilowatt hours of electricity a month. We're talking about producing 445 kilowatts an hour. Now, after we deduct our annual maintenance, routine maintenance downtime on the electric generator that's connected to our anaerobic digestion system, we generate 3 gigawatt hours of electricity a year. And at today's selling price to Taipower of 5.116 NT dollars, we've now generated 16 million NT dollars in new fresh revenue for the factory. In Taiwan's mature and highly competitive food and beverage industry, processed food and beverage industry, a company would have to spend a ton of money on advertising to be able to generate that type of new top-line revenue. Because of the efficiency of the particular anaerobic digestion technology that I'm thinking of applying in this factory, we could get the dewatered sludge production down to 1.5 tons a day. That compares to 15 tons a day under the current circumstances. Now, to get rid of that 500 and something tons a year of sludge, it's going to cost the factory 3.5 million NT. Right now, they're paying 29 million NT to get rid of that dewatered sludge. So if we take, they save 26 million NT dollars a year. Boom, straight to the bottom line. I'll take it. Now, if we add the factory's other solid organic waste to the mix, put it together with our 200 tons a day of wet sludge, we're going to generate 570 kilowatts an hour of electricity and generate over 4 gigawatt hours of electricity a year. We can sell that to Taipower for 20 million NT dollars. Here again, okay. Our dewatered sludge output increases from just doing the wet sludge. We're up to 700 metric tons a year, but it's still a fraction of the 4,500 tons a year that is the current situation. And if we do the numbers, excuse me, factory's going to see a bottom line boost of 45 million. Now, there are some additional other benefits available to the factory from taking this approach. In addition to generating electricity, the generator also produces an equal amount of thermal energy to the amount of electricity it produces. Now, that thermal energy can get sent back to the factory as hot water for them to use in their production processes in the factory. Or you can convert it to cold water and you can run it through the factory's chillers or their air conditioning system. And at the same time, their sludge dewatering costs are going to drop. So clearly we can see some very stark financial benefits that's available from taking this approach. Now, from an engineering standpoint, this isn't complicated. I mean, essentially all we need to do is a pump and a pipe to run from the clarifier tank to the anaerobic digester. You don't need to change out the existing wastewater treatment system. You don't need to close down the factory. Pump, pipe, you're good to go. So, in effect, the bottom line from looking at that sludge as a resource to be used rather than garbage to be thrown away, we can generate new revenue and we can reduce our factory operating costs. In effect, a byproduct becomes a co-product and waste becomes wealth. However, you are not going to get those kind of results, electricity generated and sludge reduction, from using the traditional old-style CSTR anaerobic digestion technology that is common in Taiwan. You're going to need aerobic digestion systems that have a much higher biomethane conversion rate, where the chemical oxygen demand in that waste is converted to biogas. You're also going to need a system that has a much shorter retention time. So the sludge in the tank, max 10 days, as opposed to Taiwan's traditional 20-plus days in the tank, because that means then that your tank is much smaller. You go with a traditional tank, it's going to take too much land. There's not enough room in the factory to do this. Thanks for playing. Here's the home board game. See you, bye. Okay? So, I suppose, really, this is kind of another story for another day. I don't want to get off topic, really, about business challenge and opportunity in Southeast Asia for wastewater treatment. So, I guess maybe last off today, let me share with you a couple of thoughts on keys to success in wastewater market development in other Asian countries that are based on my 40 years of going into markets across Asia and creating something from nothing, and creating opportunity and turning it into monetary return for my principles. The first issue is market research. Every one of us has got a computer with a web browser that is connected to the internet. Okay? Desktop research, Vietnam's plans for wastewater treatment development, feed-in tariff pricing in Thailand or the Philippines or Indonesia. Who are the big players in food and beverage in Thailand or Vietnam? It's all there. It's all there to be tapped. Now, got to speak English to be able to get at that and the academic research papers, the government statistics and what have you, but it's a great place to start to narrow your focus to identify specific, actionable opportunity. However, one small fly in the ointment, oops, okay. There is an issue with the accuracy of government statistics, and they vary as we go from country to country, okay? Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, their government statistics are typically quite good. And when I say good, I mean they're complete. In many countries, government simply doesn't collect statistics, or it's unable to get that market data from the private sector. Now, this is an issue for us here in Taiwan. The EPA here can tell you exactly how much kitchen waste they collect from households in Taiwan. Right down to the kilo, they can tell you. But no one in Taiwan can tell you how much kitchen waste is collected from restaurants, food courts, night markets, how much cabbage leaves is collected from vegetable markets, or how much sludge is produced in Taiwan. Nobody knows. No one can tell you that. It's the same situation. You go to Thailand, you go to Vietnam, you go to Philippines, Indonesia, same. No change. Now, the private equity guys who finance these kinds of projects, right, and who are eager to invest money in Taiwan in this space, okay, they don't want to hear about anecdotal information about the market. They want published statistics. It's all part of the CYA program when you go to the investment committee in a private equity firm, okay? But in Taiwan and across much of Southeast Asia, the only place you are going to get really useful information is to go down at field level and talk to the guys who are doing it, the guys who really know, Okay, marketing. Visibility is a critical issue in any market development exercise, particularly outside your home market. How can your target customers know about you and the benefit that you're going to bring to their business if they can't see or hear or read about you in the media or online, or see you at exhibitions, or hear you speak at events like today? My simple advice: don't wait for opportunity to find you. Proactively tell your story again and again and again, and make it hard for opportunity to not notice you. Then there's the competition. Okay? In Sun Tzu Bing Fa, we are told that the secret to military success is 知己知彼. Okay? In baseball, winning success comes from hitting the ball where nobody is standing. Okay? You combine those two together, and the issue is all about identifying for yourself a unique, defensible market niche. For unless you've got a really compelling technology advantage, or you've got a much cheaper price, it's going to be difficult to beat your competitors head on. Now, when we talk about large-scale wastewater infrastructure engineering business, it's dominated by big players from Europe and Japan. They got strong technology stories, they got deep pockets, and they've got a proven track record. The other competition is local companies who have very profound market relationships. Those are hard to beat advantages if you're coming from Taiwan and you're trying to get into Indonesia or Vietnam. The key is all about a unique niche, like we just described with factory organic sludge. Now, if your company cannot afford the R&D money necessary to bring to market your own niche technology, then I suggest you aggressively go to Europe, aggressively go to the United States for opportunities to either license technology or secure sales representation rights. In Asia, business is all about personal relationships based on trust. A proven pathway to success for Taiwan companies developing markets in other Asian countries is to target Taiwan companies already doing business there. Let's take the example of factory sludge. There are already many Taiwanese food and beverage processors in Vietnam, in China, in other countries around Asia. Why try to sell to strangers when you can do business with old friends? Often business success isn't about what you know, it's about who you know. Last off, when I first started researching the market in Taiwan for anaerobic digestion systems and opportunities, my original thesis was that anaerobic digestion was a great way for factories and farms to generate new revenue and build their brand by being a leader in generating green energy. Seemed logical, right? For a guilo, maybe that's logical. But I quickly learned that those potential customers weren't really interested in investing in new opportunity. They were much more interested in finding ways to solve a problem, and especially interested in how to save money on operating costs. This led me to change my whole market positioning strategy away from selling organic waste to energy opportunities and focus on selling solutions to escalating cost problems and government regulatory problems. Simple rule of thumb is you can't sell a solution if the customer doesn't think he has a problem. Now, when you talk to the people who really know, you're going to hear the same story across this entire continent. Every country in Southeast Asia, Taiwan itself no exception, has a serious problem with organic waste disposal. Okay? Kitchen waste, supermarket and convenience store food waste, traditional fruit and vegetable market waste, used cooking oil, restaurant grease, sludge. It doesn't matter. Everybody in the new Asia is still facing the same old problem. In my analysis, the easiest to pluck low-hanging fruit in this orchard of opportunity is converting food and beverage factory sludge from a costly, highly polluting byproduct to a valuable green co-product. Market first movers are going to be richly rewarded, and so will our full world. So, in closing, I'd like to thank all of you for your time and attention this morning. I hope my comments can serve as some useful food for thought. Again, thank you very much.